Yeah, you're live.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to the YBNB show. It's Wednesday, so Mindset Day. As you know, I talk about bodies on Monday, things to do with body, Mindset Wednesday, and business on Friday. And the reason for that is the whole premise and underlying sort of motivation for YBNB really was that I discovered myself that if you really want to change things, if you want to achieve things, then obviously you're very dependent on your mindset. And your mindset, in turn, the quickest way, the best way, the most effective way to sort of strengthen your mindset and to change it is to work on your body. And I learned that from Tony Robbins, and then I really experienced it myself as well when I had my own sort of transformation. So today we're talking about mindset, and I thought I'd come up here on my roof terrace. Sabrine, who operates in the background here, said to me, she thought I was away on holiday. I'm not. I'm just right in the middle of London, but it just shows you so quiet, and it's actually quite mild out today. So that's our British weather for you. With regard to mindset, I was going to. It's headed. How far have you come? And I think we're on about number 89. We've got 100 of these that we decided to do before we round it all up into a whole load of sort of key points. And how far have you come? I was really thinking there about, when you look back over your old photos, as I sometimes do, it's really interesting because when you look at a photo, it's a bit like listening to an old song. It really does evoke lots of things in terms of sort of how you were feeling, who you were with, what you were doing. And so really that was going to be the theme of today when I talk about how far have you come? I mean, have you really, have you surprised yourself? You probably have. And is it sort of have you come in generally the direction that you thought you would? And if you have or you haven't, what's the reason for that? And what things can you learn so that you can spend your next sort of period of time, whether that's another 3 years, achieving the things that you want. And it doesn't have to be things, it can be experiences or just a way of being or a way of feeling. It's about who you're becoming, isn't it, as opposed to what we've got, because having these things is very transient. And as we've probably all learned as we get that bit older and get houses and cars and all that, and it's never, getting a thing is never really the end goal, because when you think about it, if you want a particular thing like a house or a car, it's only because you think it's going to make you feel a certain way. And so really, if you start to focus on your emotions, you can feel like that a lot quicker, maybe even without having that thing. So I think it's very interesting to go back. Obviously, we've all got phones and we all take loads of pictures now. It's very interesting to go back on, you might use something called Time Hop, but if not, just go back and look at your photos for this time a few years ago, and you've probably got years of photos like I have. I've just done it just prior to this, and I went all the way back to 2010 and look at this day, 28th, 29th, 30th of June, this time all those years ago, because it's a good way of clearing out your phone as well. But if you start to look back at particularly 3 years ago, I just went back to 6-7 years ago, and you start to look at the individual then and start asking yourself, how did that person feel? The you then, how did you feel? Who were you influenced by? Who were you spending time with? Because that's who you are influenced by. What was it that you had, on your vision? What were you looking to achieve? What sort of things were you excited about, worried about at that point? And then compare that to, go through the years and look at the journey that you've had. Did you stand still some years? Are there whole years that are sort of lost where you were just sort of doing the same thing? Was it completely different, living in different places, being with different people, doing different jobs, being a different shape if you changed your body, thinking a different way if you've worked on your mindset? How different is it now? If you look at sort of maybe 3 years ago even, are you a different person now? And if so, why is that? Is it because of things that you've very consciously done, or is it things that have just happened to you along the way? And it's quite interesting to look at that, particularly if maybe you wanted to achieve things that you didn't. Maybe you wanted to change your body, or you wanted to change your job, or you wanted to build different types of relationships, or have different influences, travel, things like that. I mean, obviously, none of us expected the pandemic and what's happened. But even that's very interesting to look at. If you look at 2 years ago, obviously we didn't know anything about it. a year ago now it had just started, and how did we feel then? And look at us now, with it sort of almost behind us, not quite, but we've changed things, haven't we? And are we all going back to normal, or have we taken advantage of some of the changes? Has there been silver linings that have made us do different things, like get fitter, like change the way we live, change the balance in our life, change our jobs even? So comparing the now and the then is a really, really useful thing to do. And I would say don't do it regretfully. If you look back, you think, oh, I'm still this, or I haven't done that, or things were better then, or whatever it is. And don't forget, because of the pandemic, we've been picked up almost like from one planet and put in another. And so sometimes it is easy, maybe business was easier then, jobs were easier then. I don't know, but that could be the case for you. And but resist the temptation to look back sadly and think, oh, I wish it was like that. But instead, look at what has changed, and then most importantly, look at why these things have changed, and what is it that you did consciously to make those changes? Because once you know that, whether it was positive or negative changes, whether it was things that happened by accident or not, it's a really good basis for then sitting down now and saying, okay, well, what do I want to happen in the next 3 years? When I do this exercise again, or even in the next year, when I do this exercise again, am I going to look back at the me now and be pleased because, I've achieved different things. I've changed the things that I wanted to change. I've, maintained the things I wanted to maintain. So looking at, your body, is it exactly as you want it now in terms of strength and the way it looks? And if so, what's going to be your regime for maintaining that? Looking at your mindset, do you worry unnecessarily about things? Do you put brain power into things that really, looking back now, were probably trivial? That's another thing. If you look back 3 years ago and look at what you're worried about, most of those things probably didn't materialize. So were they trivial, the things that you worried about? And very often we don't spend our time worrying about the things that really are worth worrying about, because we don't know they're going to happen, and they suddenly happen, like someone gets ill or whatever. And those are the things that really, really matters. It's pointless worrying about the trivial stuff. So that's another thing. Looking at the current position now, should we say, okay, I'm refusing to give brain power and energy to things that are trivial because they're going to be transient? Even last week's problems don't seem that big now. So refusing to give brain power and putting your mental energy into things that are going to get you where you want to be. And then with regard to your job and your business, is there something that you wish you'd done before that you still haven't done, or you've only done a little bit of it? Well, now's the time. There's no time like the present. Grab the ball by the horns, sit there and work out what it is to move you vaguely in that direction. Because what happens is, there is certainly something to be said for this thing about manifestation, because when you think about something a lot, even if you don't quite get there, you sort of get there. When you start to look at where you wanted to be 3 years ago. And one of the things that I picked up yesterday, I was looking back doing this exercise, and I looked at a parliamentary committee I was sitting on, and I was giving some advice to a government committee about things that they could do to help small businesses grow. I posted it on my Instagram and on my LinkedIn if you want to have a look, because I sat there and I said, and there was everybody sitting around me listening, but saying different things. And what I was actually saying was that businesses need to start to go online. They want communication methods which are going to be online. People want to be communicated with. At times it's convenient for them, in ways that are convenient for them. I talked a lot about podcasts, about the use of Zoom, because I'd already heard about Zoom from a friend of mine who is still very senior at IBM. And, I was really, I didn't realize it, but I was really forecasting what ended up happening with all of us because of the pandemic. And I was really advocating that. And that made me think today that one way or another, although I didn't expect it to happen in quite the way it did with my own business life, I've got to where I wanted to get, which was a very much more a virtual sort of business and communicating with people on a much wider scale, because now I have a client base that's global, which I really wanted but didn't have before. And so one way or another, if you think about these things a lot, there is this power of manifestation. You can make these things happen. So I think that's really all I wanted to say is, do the exercise, because it's really interesting. And it also helps you clear out your phone as well for stuff that, is rubbish you don't want to keep. But it is very good to take stock. It really helps you then to see how far you've come, look at the things that worked for you, look at the things that didn't, look at who you were influenced by, look at who you're influenced by now, set your goals, and just be a little bit more, maybe, I think, not focused, but intentional about how you spend your time, who you spend your time with, and what is it that you want, because you can make these things happen. And that's it really for today. That's all I wanted to say. Lovely to speak to you as always. And I might be talking to you about business on Friday. So have a great rest of the